They laughed when I told them what I did for a living. They called it embarrassing, temporary, a joke. They never imagined that same job would be the one they'd beg me for. My name is Hannah Miller. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't lost. I just chose a path my family didn't respect. They believed success only looked one way: college, office, title, approval. When I didn't follow that script, I became the family punchline. This is the story of how their laughter turned into silence, and then into desperation. The laugh didn't explode. It slipped out, a quick sound, sharp and careless, like it didn't even matter. That was the moment I realized how little they thought of me. We were sitting around my aunt's dining table, the same one we'd gathered around for holidays since I was a kid. The food was warm, the lights were bright, and everyone was relaxed. Everyone except me. "So, Hannah," my uncle said, cutting into his steak, "what are you doing these days?" The question landed heavier than it should have. I hesitated, not because I was ashamed, but because I already knew how they'd react. "I run my own cleaning business," I said evenly, "mostly homes and small offices." For half a second, no one spoke. Then my cousin let out a laugh. Not loud, not mean, dismissive. "You mean you clean houses?" he said. I nodded. Yes. My aunt tilted her head, smiling in that way people do when they're pretending to be supportive. "That's practical," she said. "Temporary, I assume." I felt my face heat up. "It's steady," I replied, "and it's growing." That's when the jokes started. "Hey, at least you won't have student loans," someone said. "Flexible hours must be nice. So when do you plan to get a real job?" They laughed again. And I smiled, because that's what I'd learned to do when my place at the table felt fragile. My mother jumped in, trying to soften it. "She's figuring things out," she said. "We're proud of her." But the words didn't match her tone. She sounded apologetic, like she was explaining me. As they talked over me, I stared at my plate. I thought about my alarm going off at 5:30 every morning, about scrubbing floors until my knees hurt, about building something from nothing because no one had handed me anything. None of that mattered here. All they saw was a title they didn't respect. Later, while everyone moved into the living room for dessert, I stayed behind to help clean up. Old habit. I washed dishes quietly, listening to laughter spill in from the other room. My cousin's voice carried clearly. "At least Hannah's job will always be recession-proof," he joked. "People will always need maids." My chest tightened. My mother didn't correct him. That hurt more than the joke itself. When she finally joined me in the kitchen, she avoided my eyes. "You know how they are," she said gently. I set a plate in the rack harder than I meant to. "Why do I have to understand them, but no one ever understands me?" She sighed. "They just worry." "No," I said quietly. "They just don't respect me." She didn't argue. On the drive home, I stared out the window, replaying every word. I wasn't angry, I was tired. Tired of shrinking, tired of proving myself to people who had already decided my value. That night, I opened my laptop and reviewed my contracts. 3 new clients, 2 commercial spaces, a waiting list. I wasn't failing, I was building. They just didn't know it yet. A week later, my phone rang. It was my aunt. Her voice sounded tight, nervous. "Hannah," she said, "we're in a bit of trouble." I sat up straighter. The laughter from dinner echoed in my mind. "What kind of trouble?" I asked. There was a pause. "The kind that changes everything." My aunt didn't explain on the phone, she just asked if we could talk. That alone told me everything. The same woman who laughed politely at my job now sounded like she was holding her breath, afraid of what might happen if she let it out. We met at a small cafe near her office. She arrived early, sitting stiffly with her hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. "Hannah," she said when she saw me, "thank you for coming." That sentence alone was new. "What's going on?" I asked. She glanced around, lowered her voice. "We're in a bit of trouble." I waited. "We're struggling," she said. "The cleaning company we use dropped us, no notice. We've got inspections coming up, complaints, staff quitting." I raised an eyebrow. "And?" She swallowed. "We were wondering if you could help." There it was, the ask. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement, just need. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the dinner table, about the laughter, about being called temporary. "What kind of help?" I asked. She leaned forward, hopeful. "Could you take us on as clients, just until things stabilize?" Clients, not family. Interesting. "I'd have to look at my schedule," I said. Her shoulders dropped. "Of course, we'd pay." Pay. Another new word. Word traveled fast after that. My uncle called 2 days later, then a cousin, then my mom, who tried to frame it like concern. "They didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "They're just under pressure." Funny how pressure changes people. I went home that night and reviewed my numbers. I didn't need them, but they needed me, and that imbalance was new. When I finally agreed to visit their office, the place was a mess. Dust layered on desks, trash overflowing, bathrooms neglected. This was what they dismissed as easy, as unskilled. I walked through quietly, taking notes. My aunt watched me nervously. "We didn't realize how complicated this all was," she admitted. I nodded. "Most people don't." She hesitated. "We're really grateful you're doing this." I met her eyes. "You laughed at me," I said calmly. Her face flushed. "I'm sorry." The apology was small, but it mattered. I sent over a contract that night. Professional, clear, firm. No family discounts, no favors. They signed without negotiation. As I left their building that day, something shifted inside me. Not satisfaction, power. The quiet kind that doesn't need revenge to be loud. And that was just the beginning. Because once they realized what my job was really worth, they'd never laugh again. The first invoice went out on a Monday morning. I didn't soften it. I didn't add a note. I didn't explain myself. It was clean, professional, exact. And it was higher than they expected. Within an hour, my phone rang. It was my uncle. "Hannah," he said carefully, "there must be a mistake." "There isn't," I replied. Silence. "That's a lot," he said. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "It reflects the work," I said, "and the urgency." He cleared his throat. "We thought, maybe, because you're family—" "I am," I interrupted. "That's why I didn't raise it more." Another pause. Then, "Okay." That single word felt heavier than any apology they'd ever offered. The work began immediately. My team moved through their offices with efficiency and pride. We didn't rush, we didn't cut corners, we documented everything. My family watched. They saw the planning, the coordination, the professionalism. The job they'd laughed at now looked serious, respectable, necessary. At dinner that Sunday, the conversation sounded different. No jokes, no dismissive smiles. Instead, "How did you build this? When did you hire staff? Do you enjoy it?" The questions felt strange, late. I answered politely but briefly. They didn't need my story anymore. They needed my service. My cousin pulled me aside after dessert. "I didn't realize how much work it all was," she admitted. "You're really good at this." I nodded. "I know." She blinked. I'd never said that before. Then my mom crossed a line. She called one evening, her voice soft and hopeful. "Do you think," she began, "you could maybe help Jason's new place too? He's struggling." I closed my laptop slowly. "No," I said. She sounded surprised. "Why not?" "Because," I replied, "help isn't automatic anymore." The silence that followed was thick. "You've changed," she finally said. I smiled. I've grown, I corrected. The truth was, I didn't feel cruel. I felt clear. I had spent years shrinking to make others comfortable. Now they were uncomfortable, and that was okay. A week later, my aunt asked if I'd consider expanding my services to other family-owned properties. More money, more control. I agreed, with terms, written ones. The respect they denied me came back slowly, awkwardly, like they were learning a new language they should have spoken all along, and I let them learn, because respect means more when it's earned.